Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy, and today we're talking to Dr. Amber Thornton. She's a licensed clinical psychologist and wellness coach and the founder of Balanced Working Mama, with a mission to completely change the narrative of what is possible for millennial mothers by helping them to better balance work, motherhood, and wellness. She's also the host of the Balanced Working Mama podcast. Dr. Amber resides in Washington, D.C. with her husband and 2 little kids. Welcome, Dr. Amber.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So you are not only a mom of 2 little ones, you're also a psychologist supporting mothers. So motherhood is central to what you live and think about. But you didn't always think that you would become a mother yourself. Tell us about that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's such a great place to start. I actually never really thought that I would want to become a mom. And it was, not because I didn't want children, but more so because this version of motherhood that I had seen growing up just looked really challenging, to be honest. And there was somewhere along the way I learned that being a mom meant that you had to really forego some of your desires or some of your dreams, your goals. And I had always been someone who was so ambitious, even still. I always wanted to create things. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to be a learner. I wanted to read. And I had trouble seeing how motherhood fit in this lifestyle of me wanting to be a lifelong learner and me wanting to be ambitious, me wanting to start businesses, me wanting to be a psychologist or be a professional. And so that led me to think that I didn't want to be a mom. I would always joke with my family, like, well, I'll just be the rich auntie. I'll come back and visit, because I have a niece. I said, I'll be the rich auntie. I'll come back and visit, but motherhood is just not for me. And that really changed. Luckily, somewhere along the line, I met my now husband and really started to see the vision for how life could be. With me and my ambitious self, me wanting to do all the things, me wanting to achieve my dreams and how I could be a mom. And so that's where I am now, trying to figure all that out. That definitely was my story early on.
And as a result of this journey that you went on, you focus a lot on balance. Balance can be sometimes a little bit of a controversial word in motherhood. Some people feel it as this, okay, it's another thing on my to-do list on top of raising my kids and trying to cover the health insurance and do my job. Now I'm supposed to also find balance and maybe get a pedicure or something. I don't quite know what it means. Talk to us a little bit about what your vision is of balance.
This is great timing. I actually just had a conversation with my husband the other day about this term, because to be quite honest, before I started Balanced Working Mama, I did not know that the term balance was so controversial. And I started to learn more and more after I went deeper into it that, many women were very triggered by this idea of balance. And, as I started to really listen to them a little bit more and understand why, it was exactly what you said. It feels like, it's another responsibility. Not only do I have to be a good parent and be a good mother and I have to, work, then I also have to find time for myself. That feels like an obligation. And there's a lot of pushback because a lot of women just have trouble really finding the balance between all the things that they want for their lives or all the things they want to do. And so I'm learning now that that is so controversial. And the way that I have been conceptualizing balance in motherhood, I've been really trying to help people understand that when I say balance in motherhood, I actually do not mean showing equally in all the aspects of your life, because that is not possible all the time. It's not possible at all. Some days I am more of a mom. Some days I have to tell my kids, look, go get the tablet because I have some work to do. And so that balance is not necessarily what I mean when I say balance in motherhood. And instead, what I'm now seeing, what I have meant this whole time, is really an experience of joy, an experience of fulfillment and satisfaction. Also an experience of healthiness, wellness is what I mean when I say balance. And, when I teach moms about balance, there are these ingredients, I call them, that are needed. Things like, well, we have to have really strong boundaries in order to have the experiences we want in life. We have to learn how to prioritize our wellness in order to have a healthy body and a healthy mind. We have to learn how to be outside of motherhood. And what that means to me is learning who I am when I am just to myself. Who am I outside of motherhood? We have to learn how to really unlearn this idea that my sense of worth is tied up in how well I can make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or, how well I can do all these things that only deal with motherhood. So, I teach moms these small little ingredients that we need to implement into our life in order to have an experience of joy, more fulfillment, more satisfaction. And that to me is what balance means.
There's another thing about balance that occurs to me. Balance sounds hard, right? Balance sounds like a tightrope. Mm-hmm. It sounds like hard work and something I might not be good at and something I might fail at. I might fall.
Exactly.
And I think once you are balanced, you're talking about joy, right? Like standing on a tightrope is the opposite of joyful to me. But of course, we're talking about getting to something that is very worthwhile. Does it have to be hard and difficult and a struggle first? Do you need to do something hard to get to the ease and the joy?
That's a great question. And, the one thing that actually was coming to mind to me as you were asking that is that balance looks different for everybody. And for some women, what I have learned is that their journey to that feeling or that experience of balance is a little bit more easier than others. For some women, they do have to do some really hard things. And it might be big things like end a marriage or, really have very difficult conversations with their families about what they are no longer going to do. Or, really start to have more vulnerable conversations and, maybe even start going to therapy so that they can really start to unlearn some things that are no longer healthy for them. Those things are hard. And that, though, is necessary for them to have the balance that they need. For other women, it's really as simple as making a schedule for when you're going to work out. And once they do that, then they're like, this feels so much better. And now I'm on a journey where I can see how I can have more balance. So let me do some other things. And so balance is so different for everybody. But for some women, it will require a really big leap.
Can we talk a little bit about boundaries? Because one of the things I like in your work, I think this is a step that so many people don't think of, that they think of balance as something that is all my work. And it's up to me to figure out how to balance the need of my mother-in-law and my husband and my boss and my trainer or whoever these people in your life are, that it is my job to somehow take all those voices in and put them in the right place. And one thing that you talk a lot about in your work is boundaries and how much that changes what your picture looks like. So can we drill down on boundaries a little bit?
We just need them.
Have them.
Yes, have them. Have them, need them, use them, enforce them, keep them, even with that example, like you said, trying to maintain a balance so that you can meet the needs of your partner, meet the needs of your in-laws. And some of these people, we don't need to meet their needs. They can just meet their own needs. Or, we have to put in some boundaries so we can really figure out, okay, well, what's mine and what's theirs? What's my responsibility and what is not? Also to teach other people, okay, well, this is no longer her responsibility, it's actually mine, right? And so boundaries are a two-way street. They are for other people to really learn what they can expect from us, but also they're for us too, to kind of keep us in check, to help remind us, hey, that thing over there is actually not your responsibility. And it is fine that it is not yours. And this in this bucket, this is what's yours.
Can you give us an example of a boundary? Because it's another word I think we use sometimes. And it's like, does it just mean saying we're not going to two families for the holidays? What is an example of a boundary that really you've seen somebody set that helped them rebalance?
I actually will use an example from my life, if that's okay. Speaking of the holidays, I recently set a boundary for myself and for my own family, my mother, my brother, my aunts and uncles, that, because right now in this season of my life, when I have a 3-year-old and I have a 1-year-old and I live 7 hours away from everyone else, that traveling during the holidays is really just not the best for us, because what I learned, especially the Christmas holiday, the Thanksgiving, that time of year, usually there's more stress for me. There's more stress for my family. There's cold and flu season. Flights are expensive for a family of 4. And I haven't
just did it. Don't do it, people.
And during the pandemic, I missed out on all of the free flights for my 2-year-old. So now I have to pay because he's 3. So it's just,
I didn't even think about that. That's a bummer.
Very much so. And so that was a boundary, though, that I had to set, because I knew that if I continued to force myself and my family to travel to Ohio every year for Christmas, that would not mean happy times for me. It wouldn't be happy memories for me. It would just be more stress, more anxiety, which is not good for me, my body, my babies. And so I had to set that boundary. And, on the other side of that, there maybe was some disappointment from my family because they love to see us for the holidays. And even for me, some guilt. But I had to really set that boundary for myself and for them, because ultimately I knew that me making this decision was a better situation for me and my family. And so that was one example of a boundary I just set this past year, helping people understand that, unfortunately, we will not travel to Ohio for Christmas or Thanksgiving holidays. However, what we can do is travel during the summer. So that's one example. And again, it looks different for everybody, but I think the boundary is, you making a decision about something that either doesn't feel good for you, doesn't serve you, and, just stamping it and communicating it and really standing firm in that.
We are talking to Dr. Amber Thornton, and we will be right back.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
I think when we talk about boundaries too, sometimes I feel like, well, if I go, I will be overwhelmed. But if I don't go, I will feel this unrelenting guilt that will ruin the holiday anyway. I have a job that I am taking on too much at, and I will sometimes recruit my spouse and say, you have to tell me not to do this. I know I'm going to feel pressured to do it. You have to tell me it's okay to say no. And you have to kind of be the bad guy for me. I mean, my spouse is not in a position to say you are not allowed to do this. But I mean, for a lot of people, maybe more so women who are busy trying to keep everybody happy and see that as our role. On the one hand, I see that we might be happier setting the boundary. But on the other hand, how do I get out of this feeling of like, oh, I'm just going to feel so upset the whole holiday that so-and-so is mad at me?
You know, I talk about guilt a lot with moms that I work with, and that guilt, you know, my philosophy on guilt, especially mom guilt, is that 99% of the time, it's really just an illusion. You know, it's not true. It's a feeling for sure. It's a strong feeling. It's a feeling that you might have a very visceral reaction to. But, you know, my work as a psychologist, what I teach my clients even is that we can have a feeling and it doesn't always reflect the reality of what's actually going on. Right.
That is so smart. I have really never thought about it that way until you just said that the guilt is something that I'm creating. It's not inherent to this situation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And especially if, and this happens a lot too, especially if there has not been a family member that has like expressed any, you know, negative feelings towards you about a decision that you've made, you know, then absolutely, this is just a feeling that you're having, but it's not necessarily a reflection of the reality. Sometimes we do have family members that express some disappointment or, you know, some upset feelings about a boundary that we've set. But even then, we have to really remind ourselves that it is okay for them to have a feeling about a decision that I've made for myself and for my health or for my family.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just have to remind ourselves that. But, you know, to that first point, though, guilt 90% of the time for moms and for women is really just a feeling that we're having, but it is not a reflection of what's really, really going on. Because a lot of the times when we make decisions for our families or ourselves, we're doing it in the best interest of at least our families, you know? And so that is always typically a good thing. You know, on the flip side, you said if you go, you'll be overstimulated. That's real, you know, and you can see the consequences. You feel that that is actually really happening. You being overstimulated in a situation, having trouble regulating your emotions, your feelings, your experiences. But guilt is different. I really like to help moms understand that most of the time when you're feeling guilt about a decision that you've made for your own well-being or for the best of your family, it is a feeling. And that's really as far as it goes.
Oh, I'm putting you on speed dial, Dr. Amber. I needed to hear that.
Even if you do get specific negative feedback, because sometimes you are going to get pushback, right? What I like about what you say about balance is that it's missing the clause. For example, I just saw a friend today saying, you know, in the new year, I'm doing a Peloton. I'm committing to do a Peloton 4 times a week because I'm noticing I'm more cranky. And when I exercise regularly, I can show up as a better mom for my family. And that's a good end. But the balance you're talking about is like, I do a Peloton 4 times a week because I want to do a Peloton 4 times a week. And it makes me feel better, not ... So I'll be this partner, mother, whatever that my family deserves.
Exactly.
That isn't why you have to put this stuff in place. It can be just for you.
For you. And it goes back to that joy that you'll have when you do that experience of fulfillment, because you know you're taking care of yourself and that satisfaction, that deep wellness that we all need. Those experiences let you know that you're having some balance or you're experiencing some balance in that moment.
And this reminded me a long time ago, I was training for a marathon. I mean, a long time ago now. But one of the pieces of advice that my little book said is don't attach secondary expectations to running. Mm-hmm. That like if you make running about losing weight or you make running about anything other than running, that you're robbing yourself of the experience of running and finishing a marathon, which is a huge accomplishment. But that if you somehow past the finish line and you didn't lose the 10 pounds you thought you would, then it's a failure of an experience. And I think that your work gets at so much of we do this to ourselves, those secondary expectations and this idea of if then, and I'll do this because it will lead here, and just skipping the joy that lives in the place of, I'm going to do this thing.
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, sometimes that was such a great point. And what it also made me think of, going back to how we were saying that word balance can be very triggering, And I think sometimes it's because we assume that, okay, if I take time for myself, that means I have to make it up somewhere else. And I also like women and moms to understand you actually don't. You really don't, because you taking a moment for yourself is actually not taking away from your family at all. It's contributing to your family. And so that just you having a moment to yourself, you deciding to do the Peloton 4 days a week, it's not taking away from your family or your children at all. It's contributing to you, it's adding to you. And that is enough. That's sufficient. And that is balance.
And also, it seems to me that taking moments for yourself or doing the Peloton or, whatever it is that you do may not lead to you being the world's most ideal mother, wife, and Zen human being that ever existed, but that there's value in doing it for itself versus for these magical results that somehow, and I do think that's where the balance thing comes in. It feels like there is this very set number where everything will be in balance, and then like the sun will come out and it will be like walking into Oz and everything will be in color and it will be perfect. And that's the illusion of balance. That's not really what your work is about.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Can I ask you about millennial moms? Because millennial moms are a particular focus of Busy Working Mama, and you are a millennial mom. But I want to know, how do you define millennial mom, and why is that group of particular interest to you?
Yes. Someone actually just asked me on my Instagram, what age is millennial and why millennials? And so this is fresh in my brain because I just answered that. Millennials technically are born, and I think now I can't remember the exact dates, but I think it was between 1996 and 1981, something like that. So mid-20s to about early 40s are the age group that I really like to focus on. And I like to focus on millennials specifically. One, because I'm a millennial, but also because I think that there is just a very unique experience that millennial mothers are having. We are the generation that grew up right at the peak of this new internet and social media and Facebook. Like, we're becoming moms in a period where past mothers just have not experienced so many things that we've experienced. And so what I found is that moms are doing motherhood very, very differently. And because of that, they need extra support because, they might go back to their mom maybe to seek support or help or, want some validation for a decision they're making, whether it's for their own well-being or, themselves as a parent. And sometimes other people won't get it, because motherhood is so different now. And so that's why I really like to focus on millennial motherhood, because I think we're also in a time where, wellness is actually being appreciated and acknowledged, or the idea of mental health. I think we're one of the first generations of mothers who are actually really embracing this idea of mental health and therapy, and not only for ourselves, but for our kids too. And so these are just all new experiences that really warrant a lot more support because things are so different now.
We're talking to Dr. Amber Thornton, and we'll be right back. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. So, Dr. Amber, another big sort of plank of the balanced working mama work is undoing default parenting. Sounds great. Tell us how it works.
We're all for it.
Yes. So I want a little bit of background on why this is becoming a focus for me in 2023. And it's because Balanced Working Mama was born in 2020. And from 2020 to the end of 2022, I really was working very hard to help women have this balance that we were just talking about, you know, this experience of joy and fulfillment, satisfaction, and the things they need to do, the boundaries they need to set, the ways they need to prioritize wellness and how they have to stop doing everything. And I was able to make some progress in helping a lot of women. But then I started to have conversations with other women who really started to say things like, you know, well, I just don't have time because I'm doing everything. You know, or these other conversations started to come about how, you know, for many women, they want balance. They want these things, but they are unable to do it because at home there is this weird shift in terms of responsibilities and demands, and that has not yet been addressed. And it's so interesting. I actually had a conversation with my neighbor. She's an older woman, and she follows me on Instagram, and she said, you know what? I really want you to start speaking to the dads because they are the reason that women don't have this balance. And so I really took that in. And I don't think I'm going to start speaking to the dads, but instead what that meant for me is that in order for more women to have balance, we really need to help them undo this default parent role that they find themselves in, because it's hard to have this balance that we're talking about when there is a misbalance in terms of roles and responsibilities at home. And so that is why that's coming up now. And I'm really excited to talk a lot more and speak a lot more about that this coming year, because it feels like the next step for Balanced Working Mama. More women can have more balance if they are not doing everything at home. And so undoing default parenting is really just that. You know, if you find yourself in a role where you feel like you are the default parent, you are the first in line in defense, which means that you really just do everything. I want to help undo that, unlearn that. Let's unravel that so that you can find some balance.
We just had a commenter in our Facebook group who said, my child is in 4th grade and my husband just now realized, he said something about grades and just realized that our school does not do grades for the kids. 4th grade. It's a kind of a funny example, but it's the many examples of who knows the name of the pediatrician, who knows what the names of the medications the kids take are, who is thinking in January about where they're going to summer camp, because that conversation, husbands, does not actually begin May 23rd. It's a tremendous mental load of just keeping all of those pieces, you know, going, spinning all those plates in your mind, basically. So does that conversation begin with sitting a spouse down and saying, I am the default parent and I want you to take these 4 things, assigning a spouse things? Does it just mean having a general conversation about the idea of default and how that looks? How do you recommend that people start that conversation?
Mm-hmm. And of course, no one's going to like this answer, but it really depends because it could look so different. You know, I'm imagining that for some women, it might be starting with having that sit down conversation with their spouse about, hey, you know, I recently learned this term called default parent. And when I read about it, it described me and my experiences. And I want to share this with you. And this is what I think we need. You know, for other women, their partners might not be receptive to that right now. And so they might have to do some of the other things that I recommend often on my Instagram, you know, small little tips, things that you can start to do today to really shift the system. You know, for other women, They might find that they have to just completely stop doing some things. And so it really can depend, and it varies. I'm very much an advocate for like bringing your spouse and your partner in as much as possible because, this whole idea of undoing a default parent role, it doesn't have to be on you. It doesn't have to be you doing it all by yourself. And it's always best when we can collaborate with our partners and say like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing and this is what I think we need to do to get on the other side of it. And realistically, though, there are going to be many families and women who find that they might have to make the first moves. They might have to do it first to really shift the system, to really get that attention from their families of, hey, I'm making some changes. Things are going to change and it's no longer going to be this way. And I know that you all are not ready, but I am. And so here's the changes that I'm making today.
So there was this Washington Post essay. I'll find it and I'll put the link in the show notes for this episode. It was written by a man who had had this conversation with his parenting partner, a woman. And he said, okay, I'll start doing more. And he had to take on the kid's birthday party. And it was a really good essay because it's like, I'll just do the kid's birthday party. Fine. Like the kids just come over and play. And his partner, the wife, did a really good job of like, okay, you're in charge of everything. And then he started with like, well, how do I know the names of the kids in the class? And she's like, how indeed. And he goes through the whole thing like, oh, shoot, I have to invite people. Oh, shoot, how do I get these emails? Oh, shoot, how do I track? Well, wait a minute. What time? And and I got to reserve a thing. And there's a cake. Oh, but a kid is peanut allergic. Of course, like plan a birthday party is actually 35 things, not one, as everybody listening knows. But how this dad went through and his wife, to her great credit, did not step in. And the birthday party wasn't perfect, but he understood for the first time, planning a birthday party is 2 months of 35 tasks. It's a start.
Yes, absolutely. And that was a great example of, she did it her way. She said, hey, it's yours. And I'm so glad she didn't step in because I think oftentimes, with many of the moms that I work with, that's the hard part, because it's like we see how it might be crumbling. We see how things maybe are not going well initially. And, for many of us, we kind of are thinking about our kids and like, oh, well, what are they feeling with all this? But, honestly and truly, stepping back and allowing that person to figure it out sometimes is so good for the other person, the partner, because they have to learn their own way. Because another part of this is that, when we step back and allow people to step up, it is not going to be perfect. And it's also not going to be done the way that we want to do it necessarily. And that doesn't mean we can't have conversations about, well, what is a good standard that we should maybe set that we can both agree upon. But we have to also get comfortable with, this way that he does it may not be how I do it. And am I okay with a new way?
So, Dr. Amber, I'm sure everybody listening has been nodding their heads for the last half hour and wants to know more about Balanced Working Mama. So tell us about your group and how you work with its members.
Yes, absolutely. So Balanced Working Mama is just kind of magical because we have a membership community. In our community, moms come together and together we really support one another, but we're also really learning what balance can look like for us in any given season of our lives, but then also now introducing this topic of undoing default parenting. And so that's going to be really exciting. So that is definitely something that we've been doing for the last year, and I'm excited to have that continue. I'm also really excited to bring back the Balanced Working Mama podcast. I took a small break as I was working on the community, but I'm definitely going to be bringing the podcast back for February of this year. And I'm really excited about that, to have these conversations about undoing default parenting, really understanding what balance means, what that feels like. It's going to be really good.
We know a lot of podcast fans out there, so that works for them for sure.
Perfect.
Tell us the best links to find Balanced Working Mama and you.
Absolutely. BalancedWorkingMama.com is a really great place to start. That's the website. Right now on the website, I have a freebie, 27 simple ways to begin undoing default parenting. So you can definitely download a copy of that if the idea of undoing default parenting is intriguing for you. But I'm always on Instagram at Dr. Amber Thornton. You can find me there, and also on TikTok as well.
Awesome. This is the kind of balance that we are all looking for, friends. Dr. Amber, thanks so much for talking to us. I really needed this conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Dr. Amber.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's Omni-Shade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.